Me, Steve Pulaski, and my co-host Joe Viso talking about Paddington 2. And I know I did not expect to talk about this. I know it's a big happy point for you, Joe.
Oh my God!
I usually don't like knowing your opinion on something before we talk, but I know you could.
I was
couldn't resist yourself.
I had to post something on Facebook. I had to get the good gospel out there about Paddington 2.
And which you didn't expect to see this weekend.
No, I didn't. Here's the thing. I didn't see the first one, and once again, I tried going to see Proud Mary. It was like my life apparently just should not see Proud Mary. Apparently, I tried going to see it. I went to Hollywood Palms here in Naperville, and I get there, and it turned out the Movie Pass thing, the app, I was actually looking at the other Hollywood Boulevard Theater, and I got it mixed up. I got their showtimes mixed up, so I'm like, all right, when's the next showtime for Proud Mary? I got there at 6. The next showtime for Proud Mary was 7:30. I'm like, what's next? Paddington 2. I'm like, all right, whatever. I haven't seen the first one. I mean, whatever. Steve's reviewing it. I could just join him on that. I don't care, whatever. Oh my God, I'm so happy I saw this movie.
It's not necessary to, as somebody who's seen the first Paddington, it's not necessary narratively to see it. I think you should see it just because it's a good movie, but it's not, you didn't lose anything from this.
No, I didn't.
You didn't lose anything from this.
I was looking forward to talking about this because you've seen the first one, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I'm wondering how he's going to say like, is this really not worth seeing, but will I have to see in order to understand everything happening in the second one? Because it's like I kind of got a basic grasp of all the characters, honestly, in this movie.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, like I said, I think you should just see the first one because it's good, because it's a good film. But this, you didn't need to have seen it, and honestly, I'll tell you right now, I think this edges it. I think this is a little bit better.
Oh my God, really I can imagine.
I think this is a little bit better. The one thing I'll say too before we kind of start talking about this, dive into the plot, I'll let you do the plot analysis of it. I will say is that, you know, this was my my first official, I guess you say, kind of new movie of the year. I went on Friday between classes. I had like, the movie's an hour and like 35 minutes. I had two and a half hours between classes, so I went and saw it. I was the only person in the theater at 10:30 in the morning.
I wish I had.
I was the only person in the theater. I couldn't. I thought, I said, come on. I thought I was at least expecting like one family.
I want to go see this again because unfortunately, I saw this on Sunday night, and a lot of families were there, and there was like 2 kids constantly crying in certain scenes, and I was like, this is gonna kill it for me. I'm so happy it didn't, but I thought it was at first.
Oh yeah, I saw it with nobody. I have the eternal anomaly I have, or like the eternal contradiction, is that I want people to watch movies at the same time I want to be in the theater alone. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I love.
I love it. I had the theater to myself with my good friend one time with Logan Lucky, and we had a blast.
Next week we're going to be talking about, during the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be talking about like quirky movie theater, like events that have happened to us, like movie theater issues, or just like weird odd events, odd queerish events that have happened at the theater with us. We'll definitely bring up the moments when we've seen movies by ourselves, completely alone in the dark. So we will talk about that next week.
Okay.
But dive into Paddington 2, Joe. You take the wheel on this one.
Okay, so Paddington 2 is about a bear named Paddington. He's trying to get a birthday present for his Aunt Lucy. So he picks up a bunch of jobs, and he wants to get this pop-up book that's in a store. It's a very old pop-up book that showcases London. He wants to give it to his Aunt Lucy so she can see London through the pop-up book. Unfortunately, that pop-up book gets stolen. It's a very expensive pop-up book. It costs like thousands of dollars to purchase. That's why Paddington 2 needs a bunch of That's why Paddington needs a bunch of jobs. Basically, it ends up getting stolen, and Paddington is actually framed for it. So now the story basically here is Paddington's family is trying to find out who actually stole that book because they don't believe that Paddington did it. I didn't believe that Paddington did it when I saw this movie because of how innocent he was. And you're basically watching Paddington go through this whole experience of being in prison and away from his family, honestly, and seeing a whole different side of like London with like, you know, much more grimmer people than he's used to. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. Very good way to put it. So let's dive into this movie because there's quite a bit to talk about here. First off, I on the way to the theater, I was actually thinking about how I was going to kind of frame Paddington Bear because I did not grow up reading Paddington. I really didn't. I had very little knowledge of it until I saw the first movie back in 2015. Mm-hmm. So I did not have much knowledge of Paddington. And you know what I think? I think Paddington Bear is like the Curious George for advanced pupils. I really
that is actually a really good way of putting it.
I was thinking about it when I was rushing over to the theater to go see it between classes on Friday, and I thought about it and I said, you know what, this fits because I said Paddington's silliness And I loved reading Curious George as a kid with the man in the yellow hat. I love that stuff. Really good. I loved Curious George. But here's the thing. I said Paddington's silliness carries more weight and consequences than George's ever did. And his antics are, I think, easier to capture in a live action movie than if Curious George was live action. And I think that it's also got wryer kind of more British humor too.
Yes.
Because it is a British show. It's a British character.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think both have their weight, but man, I'll tell you, I had a blast at Paddington too.
Oh my God, I did too.
I thought that people were being, critics were being kind of facetious and cute by saying how good it was, but man, they sold this
When
thing
I saw that
correctly.
100% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, okay, obviously they're just like, yeah, it's a good kid's film. It's a kid's film. Like, it's just like, it's just passing by because it's like, yeah, it's a kid's film. This movie is so amazingly good. And I was just shocked sitting there watching this. I'm like, there's no way this is this good. Halfway through the movie, I'm like, why does my face hurt? And I just realized I have this big dumb grin just watching it the entire time, chuckling throughout the entire movie. I'm like, I'm having the most fun time. I'm loving this bear character that I'm being introduced to. I love how clumsy he is. I love how caring he is. And I just love the comedy in this too, honestly. The comedy is written like not just for kids. It's written for adults. It's written for the whole family to have a good time and laugh at.
Anybody can enjoy this thing.
And it's nicely spread out. It's not constantly back-to-back fire jokes. Like you were bringing up how you were annoyed with Lego Ninjago and other Lego movies, how it's constantly just throwing jokes at you, seeing what sticks. And it's like, I don't mind that comedy as long as most of it sticks. But I also really appreciate when a movie can like take time between jokes, and then when it hits you with a joke, you get a harder to laugh because it's been a while since you laughed. And when it hits you, it's like, yes, this is so good. I'm having there's enough jokes in there to where it's fewer jokes, but they all stick.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good way to put it. And I also like too that this movie, like you said, takes time to kind of build, lets a joke kind of stew. You know what I mean? Lets the character sort of come into themselves in a way. I really like that fact too. Not to mention, I said with the first movie, I said it feels like Wes Anderson came and decorated it, and it's the same thing here.
Yeah,
like it's the same.
When he
thing
goes
here.
to prison, I was like, oh boy, this is probably gonna feel like a lot like Grand Budapest Hotel. And it doesn't at all. It feels like its own thing. It just has that. It has that Wes Anderson look, kind of, but it's
whimsical.
Own thing.
It's warm. It's detailed. And does it not? At one time, Paddington's he gets arrested because he gets mistaken for stealing the pop-up book and whatnot. When it's really Phoenix Buchanan, played by Hugh Grant, who I want to talk about later.
God.
But Paddington has to do laundry, and he winds up mixing colors with the white. So then all the prison uniforms, instead of being like white and black, they're like
white
red,
and pink.
White and pink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like they're just kind of this hue of pink. Is that not like a bear in like a pink prison jumpsuit? Is that not Wes Anderson?
Oh, that is Wes Anderson. I was just looking at him like, God, someone really was just like, what would Wes Anderson make Paddington look like in jail? Boom, right there.
And just to say though, they did keep the director of the first film is back for this, Paul King, as well as the cinematographer Eric Wilson.
Okay.
The cast is the same. Ben Whishaw voices Paddington. Hugh Bonneville and Sally Hawkins from Shape of Water. Sally Hawkins are the parents. It's pretty much the same cast. It really is. There's the only thing that was different was in the first film, Nicole Kidman was the villain. This really is villain. But obviously you don't expect the villain to come back twice. So this really is pretty much everybody who made the first Paddington good. Especially I really give it to the King, the director, and Eric Wilson, the cinematographer. Everybody that made the first Paddington film good is here for the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's good because honestly, like they all do a great job here, and it makes me want to go back and see the first one and just like see how they meet Paddington. Honestly,
yeah, you really like this film. Talk about like sort of general impressions or like what immediately connected with you.
One thing I read after coming out of Paddington 2, because I want to make sure I wasn't just like insane when I was like, oh my God, I love this movie, and like, is it really that 100% Rotten Tomatoes? And when you brought up Curious George, I almost wanted to bring this up around that same time. Paddington is a character that can be timeless like Curious George. He's like got that look. It's just a blue coat and just the red hat. He's not modernized. He doesn't sing or dance for the kids. He doesn't go on skateboards, none of that. He feels like he can, like, you can watch this at any point throughout time and Paddington will just fit.
Yeah.
You can still, and it ages with you, basically.
Yeah, he's not
It's timeless.
Yeah, he's not like a very broadly or he's a broadly drawn character, but he's not like a character that also like belongs in animation.
Yeah.
He actually fits very well in
live
action, and he interacts with people very well. It's not until you see a movie like Paddington or Paddington 2 that you reflect on some, I guess you could say, similar movies in America. Like you know what really struck me too is I think for a lot of like showings of Paddington 2, one of the trailers to be shown is Peter Rabbit, the upcoming Peter Rabbit film. But isn't something like that, or like a movie like something that's already come out, Yogi Bear, doesn't it present the stark difference in the way American humor treats like anthropomorphic animals versus the way that like
British people do?
Yeah, Britain as a whole treats it.
Yeah.
The formula.
Because I was expecting like, okay, someone's like Paddington gonna sing and dance, and it's like he doesn't. He's his own character. He's more respectable about this. He's like, I'm a character. I'm not just a dancing animal for your entertainment.
That's exactly right. He doesn't come off as like he's trying to sell you anything. He doesn't come off like he's this, I could like this oafish farting slap happy stupid bear, and like,
that's right. There was not a single fart joke, and I'm so happy.
It's amazing, and it sucks that you have to like laud a movie for having some semblance of like comic prowess, but at the same time, Paul King, who serves as a writer, and Simon Farnaby, they're very careful with how they handle Paddington too.
Yeah.
And even they also don't think this for a second too. Don't think that because they don't have him being this goofy, because he is goofy, but they don't have him being like this broadly drawn caricature bear. Don't think that he's also like this moral, genial, like do-gooder. I mean, even though like the central theme in the film is if you're kind and polite, the world will. It's not this morality play at all.
No,
which I think
he's
is
very
amazing.
clumsy. Like honestly, throughout the film, like he's not like like you were saying, he's not like this like I'm the most genius bear ever. No, he's not.
No, and I mean even the scenes when he gets into mischief, like I love the scene with like the window washing and whatnot. Like
that was great.
But even those scenes too, like they carry this Rube. I don't know if you know Rube Goldberg, like kind of a Rube the
way it's choreographed.
Yes, the way it's choreographed, like one thing leads to another, kind of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure in the very beginning.
It doesn't get ridiculous.
No, it doesn't, and it's very pleasant, and it carries weight, and it doesn't feel like a detour.
You know what it does? Because I ended up seeing Daddy's Home 2 eventually over winter break.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And when I look at something like that, and it's like, you look at that, and like Will Ferrell gets into like a similar situation like Paddington, where it's like, you got like physical humor going on, like stuff's being destroyed and everything. Will Ferrell is screaming and yelling, and everybody's screaming and yelling. The noises are very loud and obnoxious. In Paddington, it's very quiet. Only the only noises that are going on have to relate to the joke. That's it. So like there's a scene where he is he's in a barber shop. That's one of the jobs he has, is just sweeping up hair. One guy mistakes him as the barber. Paddington turns on the razor, and because the razor is like very powerful, Paddington is like jumping up and down because the razor is vibrating. He's like going throughout the entire barber shop, and just like the only sound that's going on is just Paddington going and the razor.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going like really loud obnoxiously. No, it's very quiet, and it's just very funny watching him just go around this whole room very slowly.
That's a good point too, because something like that could be very obnoxious and very cloying. But I like, and then like the postscript of that scene too is like him accidentally shaving off a good a good portion of the gentleman's hair in the chair, and then he tries to put it back on with marmalade, which I love, which is such an integral. It was an integral part of the first film too, but it's like here with the marmalade sandwiches, which leads me to my next point. Can we talk about what a treasure Brendan Gleeson is as an actor?
Oh my god,
I'm such a big Brendan Gleeson fan. Everything I see him and I love. Like I don't know how much stuff you've seen. I mean, he's been in The Guard, he's been in Cavalry, he's been in a bunch of great movies. Brendan Gleeson.
For me.
Cavalry, you saw Cavalry.
Yeah,
that's a great.
My stepbrother told me about it, and he bought it on DVD, and I saw it.
That is a massively unseen movie. Like
it was one of his favorite movies that year. He was like, you have to see it.
Nobody talks about that movie, and it's so good. But anyway, can we talk about Brendan Gleeson and how excellent he is here? He's so good as Knuckles with an N. Knuckles with an N.
I do nothing for no one for nothing. Yeah. He basically plays the prison chef, and the scene he's introduced probably gave me the biggest laugh in the movie, honestly. The prisoners basically tell Paddington, oh yeah, the chef doesn't mind if you go over there and criticize his food, and you see the way Brendan Gleeson turns around, and like Brendan Gleeson's a huge dude. He can be intimidating.
Yeah.
And so he turns around and Paddington's just like, yes, your food, it's actually quite bad. And like just like Brendan Gleeson, you see him like slowly getting more and more angry, and just how this scene just plays out is just hilarious. Like Brendan Gleeson's comedic timing in this movie is great.
Yeah, and he doesn't do like a ton of broad comedies.
No, he doesn't.
So I mean, but he also knows how to play to kind of the, you know what I mean, the British standards of comedy, because he's also too, he's close. I mean, he's an Irish actor.
He doesn't scream a ton either.
No,
like he's like, he keeps it very quiet, and he when he intimidates Paddington, and like Paddington's like playing it off like, it's just like, well, I'm just trying to be nice to you. I thought this was no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, if you don't know who Brendan Gleeson is, you probably know him as Alistair Moody too from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
he is Alistair Moody, which I think a lot of people probably recall and whatnot. But here too, like I love the way that he acts, and I love the scene too when Paddington is when he's making the marmalade sandwiches, because he introduces Knuckles to the marmalade sandwiches, and I love when Paddington, he's trying to get the oranges off, and he winds up, all the sacks of oranges wind up falling on him. So Brendan Gleeson says he's sitting there not even helping him make these sandwiches. Take one at a time, and then Paddington's just scooting back and forth
with one orange in his hand.
One orange at a time, and he puts them on the table. One scrumptious juicy orange. He walks right up. Two scrumptious juicy oranges.
And then Brendan Gleeson just slowly puts down the newspaper he's reading. He's like, "What are you doing?"
And then he makes the face at him too.
Oh yeah,
just the way he handles it.
Yeah, and he's just like, "What are you doing?"
I love it, man. I mean, I love the chemistry between Paddington and Knuckles.
Yeah,
I think
I would never expect Brendan Gleeson to have amazing chemistry with an animated bear.
No, and the fact that he does it so well is just a marvel. But Gleeson is also so well versed. Like, he could star in a movie about an actor having lunch and make it feel like an Oscar-worthy performance. I feel, because he's got such an extensive filmography. I've kind of said what I needed to say about this. Give your final thoughts about Paddington.
Okay, so I mean, going into this, like I said, I thought this was going to be a typical kids film. It's just skating by on just good ratings, like, just good average ratings. That's why it's got the 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was expecting, like, people to be like, "Oh, Paddington, you clumsy bear, you." Like, I was expecting that cliche thing, but it wasn't that, and I'm so happy it wasn't. It was so well done. It is not like that Peter Rabbit movie we're probably gonna get. It's not that humor. It's not like any of those live action animal movies that like happen here in America where like they fart, like that other Easter Bunny movie that came out from Illumination Studios. I forgot what it's called, but like, Hop, yeah. It's not like those movies at all, which I thought the first one was gonna be, which probably is the reason why I didn't go see the first one, and I regret it immensely now seeing the sequel. This movie has a lot of heart. I love this character. All the characters in this are great, and all the performances are really good. They're all having fun, and they all know how to like, okay, this is a kid's film, let's have fun with this, and also be really good. And props to the director and the writer, honestly, for taking this sequel and taking it actually seriously. True. Actually, like, being like, we're not cashing in on this. We're going to actually tell a story here. We're actually going to develop Paddington more, and we're going to develop this family more, and their bond together more. And I love that so much. I honestly love this movie. The only problem I really have, honestly, is like the last 5 minutes, that train chase. It was just a little bit cliche, like typical train chase, and you have a few dumb jokes, but I overlooked it because, honestly, I had a great time. I mean, it's an hour and 40 minutes of just pure joy.
It races past.
Honestly, yeah. And it was just pure joy, big dumb smile on my face, and I was giggling and laughing the entire time. And honestly, it's like probably one of my favorite kids films out there right now. It's one of my favorite family films out there to like see. I'm like telling anybody who has kids, I'm like, you need to show your kids the first one and go see this one immediately. I had a blast